Welcome to the SiGMA podcast, where we speak to all the biggest players about the biggest issues in the gaming industry. My name is Wesley Ellul, and today with me we have Adam Doyle from LexisNexis Risk Solutions, which provide a RiskNarrative, which is a product for KYC and AML, where he's going to be talking to us about what regulation has to do in the industry and how you can stay compliant. Let's dive in. Today we have Adam Doyle with us. Adam, how are you? How's things it's in Wales, in sunny Wales from what I see through the window.
Yeah, all good, thank you. It's a Friday and I'm based right on the border of North Wales and England, so just by Chester. Obviously we are very famous at the moment with Wrexham and Hollywood. All right,
so have you bumped into him yet? Have you bumped into the big man Ryan Reynolds?
I saw him from about 300 meters away. That's as close as we're allowed near him.
I wouldn't be surprised. It's just a whole bunch of security and keeping him nice and safe from all the football hooligans around.
Yeah, no, he was in his nice pretty bit at the top, and we were the locals in the stand.
Well, the good thing is he is there and he is supporting you, unlike the Glazers for that team I support. And I think he's going to do much better things than they've done with us over the last 10 years. So no, that's fantastic to hear. So Adam, just tell us a little about yourself. You're from LexisNexis Risk Solutions, and you run a product called RiskNarrative. Can you just tell me a little bit about what you're doing with the company and what the product's doing?
Yeah, so LexisNexis bought our business just over a year ago. What RiskNarrative product is, it's via a single API. We have the ability to support businesses to carry out KYC and AML checks. So I head up the gaming side of the business. So where we really work with operators around the world, it's via this single API, helping with the traditional onboarding of players, making sure they are who they say they are, and they're obviously 18 years and above. But obviously a lot of the things that we'll talk about is that the likes of the UKGC and a lot of regulators, they now expect operators to do this continuous monitoring of players. So we're very much helping an operator fully understand their players, what they're doing, when they're doing it, and making sure that they're doing it without causing any harm to themselves.
Okay, no, that's something that seems to become a massive need, which I imagine for a lot of platforms, casinos and operators, they're like, this is an extra headache. But you guys seem to provide a solution which does alleviate that from them.
Yeah, exactly. I would say there's probably very few, if any, that have what we have, where via a single API we have over 60 third-party suppliers that help with your traditional things, name, address, date of birth, documents, fraud, but also that thing around the responsible and social gambling, which, like you said, that's very topical, and it's very much around making sure that your player is not going above and beyond the circumstances that they can afford.
No, that's for sure. Now, you've been involved in the space for a while, from what I assume. And what has your experience been with the UK's Gambling Act of 2005 so far in terms of a regulatory framework?
Yeah, so I will be 13 years this October.
Wow, congrats.
And yeah, the way the things, the UKGC, it's changed significantly over the years. One thing which we definitely say is, the UKGC does set very high standards for regulation. And what we're definitely seeing in new markets where you like to see the likes of the Netherlands and Ontario, they do very much follow the strict procedures that the UKGC is doing, which is very good because it's all obviously about protecting the players. But the development, like I said, over the last 13 years, it's been significant. And I think one of the things that we really have to look about is that online gambling only really started in 1990, the early sort of 2000s, especially around and the regulation taking part in 2005. So it's still very a new market. And it's one of those things that operators, suppliers like ourselves, who are very much, having to develop year on year, really make sure that they're aligning with regulations. So there's definitely been a number of changes, but personally, I'll say I think it's for the better of it. Some things maybe need a bit more clarification, but hopefully that's something that we're really going to be seeing over the next 6 to 18 months.
Yeah, I can get you there. I work a lot myself in the emerging tech market, and we're always seeing changes to sort of regulations because people are still trying to understand it. And the gambling market is one of those spaces where In fact, probably a lot of the initial regulation was aimed at sort of like the traditional land-based stuff. In fact, from what I understand, the UK's plans are to review the act so that it's sort of fits with the digital age. What do you think the impetus behind this was, though? Was it operators and individuals like yourself saying, "Hey guys, we need to sort of clean things up"?
No, I suppose, us as a business that we do work in lots of fraud, and what we're trying to do is we're trying to make sure that we're one step ahead of the fraudsters, which you never do because there's always new ways. But let's just look at technology. Back in the early 2000s, some people didn't have Wi-Fi. That's a common thing now. Now you can actually gamble without actually leaving your front room because you've got your mobile phones and stuff like that. So it's very much as what you said. The UK GC are looking to align with where we are in the sort of, the now, 2022. We have to make sure that they protect players. They have to make sure that people are doing everything within the reasons that they can do. So the things that they're now implementing, I think, it's time is moving on. And the way that people, I think if you go back years ago, I got into gambling from my granddad, because when I used to go to the house, he was very much listening to the horse racing on the wireless in the kitchen. For him to go and do a bet, he'd actually physically have to get in the car, drive out, go and put the bet on. So obviously some people, he never really put any money on it. He just listened to it because obviously there was a lot of effort. It's a bit like going to the gym. If your gym's 20 minutes away, you can quite easily talk yourself out of going there. So I think what they're doing is they're aligning with the fact that technology is out there, and it's very, very easily for people to get addicted to gambling. And it's the same with where we say with payments. When you pay on your card, in your head, you've not actually physically spent it, have you? So
I know that feeling. I just booked a couple of flights and I was like, yeah, that money really didn't come out of my account right now, did it?
Exactly.
Yeah. So would you say iGaming does it play a big role in the UK's economy?
Yeah, so I think if you look at it, I think the revenue generated in the UK is probably about 7 billion. And of that tax, I think the tax that's generated is around 3 billion. And again, I think I'm right when I say if you look at the likes of Bet365, I think Bet365, I think they would probably generate a significant amount of tax to the UK government. I know Denise Coates is probably one of the highest paying taxpayers herself in the UK.
Mm-hmm. No, it is one of those situations where this has become a major part of the economy. In fact, I was looking. This is just a complete aside. Yesterday was a deadline day in the transfer market, and I was actually looking at how much was spent in the transfer market this year as compared to 10 years ago. Yeah. And I think 10 years ago in the UK transfer market there was something like 385 million spent the 2013 season. This season there was over 2.2 billion euros were spent in the transfer market. And so we've seen a massive increase in that market. So I imagine sort of, again, with the increase in technology and the sort of accessibility, that has just gone through the roof as well with when it comes down to the betting market.
Yeah, and I think you have to look at, the people don't realise, but there's probably well over 100,000 people that work in the UK gambling market. And there's probably even more than that where you think of there's people that work in different countries around the world that are aligned with the UK market as well. So I would say it's creating a significant amount of revenue. It probably could have grown a lot more, but what you're having now is a lot of the different countries, they're going in-country regulated to obviously generate tax because that's what the governments want. So that's probably something that we're really going to see where it used to have, you'd have a UK license, you'd be able to do it globally and stuff like that. So there's a lot of changes around sort of regulators going specifically in each country, which it reduces the revenue. But I think, 3 billion tax revenue generated from an industry each year, that's still a significant amount of money.
No, I fully agree. Now, how can regulation bridge the gap between responsible online gambling and not constrict the innovation? Because sometimes we say regulation, it's going to kill us, but can it actually help innovation grow?
Yeah, I think the one thing which we have to remember about online gambling is it's entertainment. It's people do it as an element of fun. So one of the things that we're really seeing, especially around things around affordability, is at times it can feel like gambling to gamble is like going for a loan or getting some finance. There's a lot of the things which regulation is asking for. What we try and do as a business is we try and innovate ways which can make it as seamless as possible for the players, but also for the operators. So there's things that, especially as a business, that we look at sort of the transactional and behavior monitoring of a player, and it's something which we're doing very automatically. So, we have seen fines out there, and a lot of the times it can be that operators, some of the bigger ones, they're seeing so much transactions, deposits and withdrawals coming through. If you're looking at something and trying to maintain this via manpower or people power, it's very hard, and things are going to slip through the gaps. So with technology, what we try and do as a business is it's something which we're trying to hardwire rules in there. And as and when people hit thresholds or stuff's coming through, the system can automatically monitor that. And by doing that, what this really does is it helps an operator have their team focus on the events that need looking at, rather than them having to look through of Adam's made a £10 bet, James has made a £20 bet. So that's really where we're trying to innovate technology with, making it as frictionless as possible as a players. Because like I said, it is an entertainment and it's within their reason to be able to play these things. But again, with the technology that we have there, we're trying to support the operators so they can make sure that their players aren't going above and beyond their means.
Fantastic. So how do KYC and AML risk management platforms help protect iGaming ecosystem from bad actors? Do they not? I mean, you just mentioned, for example, your systems flag up certain events, which bring the operator's attention to things. Is there other things that they can do to stop the bad actors from playing in these games?
Yeah, so I suppose the one thing which everyone has to appreciate, there's a lot of data out there about us all, and what we have, there's different data. Which varies from different regulations. So there's government, there's credit, there's consumer data. So this is very much where, if we look at the basic things that an operator has to do, the first thing that they have to do is verify that I am who I say I am, and that I'm 18 years older and over. That is the key thing. People under the age of 18 shouldn't be gambling. So there's using data there to make sure that I'm not using someone else's information. There's also documents out there that you can do, but also there's new things, new technology around there, which is the likes of selfies and liveness. So that's something where it's making sure that I'm not, for example, holding a picture of you against the passport and stuff like that. Then there's other stuff which you have to look at. You have to look around, what we've seen with politically exposed people, make sure that there's not MPs out there spending the taxpayers' money. And then you have other things as well, which is very much around sanctions. So making sure money launderers, terrorists and things like that are not trying to sort of grow their money through sort of gambling places. And then there's different things where you're very much, operators will have their own technology, but as suppliers, what we're trying to do is we're trying to have different things where we're looking at the behaviors of a player. So me as a gambler, it's been looking at that. We know Adam traditionally plays on a Saturday and he bets on football and horse racing and he spends, let's say, £50. There's certain things that you can start looking at and you can start building the profile of the player, what they bet on, when they bet on, how they bet. And then if someone has their account taken over, it's something which allows you to see, well, actually, we know this is not typical of Adam. My circumstances could change, the way I bet and the way I play could change, but what we try and do from there, it's trying to give the operator the ability to communicate with the player and sort of, find out, has his pattern changed, or is this a bad actor that has actually taken over my account? So there's loads of different things which you can look at with building a player's behavior and also building their sort of what they gamble on. But then again, there's so much clever technology and simple things. IP. If I say I'm Adam, I'm in the UK, but my IP picks me up that I'm in Iceland. Well, that's quite easy to see that that's highly unlikely that it's me.
Nope, that's very true. And speaking of sort of all these new technologies, do you actually see the new sort of emerging and deep tech areas such as AI and blockchain as being a help to the authorities and to the industry, or sort of like an enemy to the regulator?
No, I think it's good. I think anything out there that's got extra data that can help with whether it's operators or business, I think it's very good. I think the one thing when it comes to a lot of AI, is regulators like facts. They like the facts of we have done this check and it's this, and this, where a lot of AI will be looking at this is what it should be, or this is what it could be, or we've seen this person's how they've changed. And, they're trying to use a lot of, typically if someone goes down this path, it's a fraudster. For a regulator, that's not factual. That's not it's a fake passport, or they popped up on a PEP and sanctions list. So again, I think AI and blockchain, it's fantastic technology, but when these new services come in, at times it's not just sort of giving this information to operator. At times it's an education process for us to educate the regulator of, this is new data, this is what it does, this is why we think it's a benefit.
Okay, fantastic. Adam, it was an absolute pleasure speaking to you today. Is there anything you'd like to add or anything you'd like to tell our viewers before we close today's podcast?
No, I think the main things that we're seeing, and not just from the UK, but for a global wise, one of the things that is happening is with compliance. Compliance is only getting tougher. It's not going away. We know operators do see it as a sort of a tax, but in the long run, it does help and support. So one thing that we try and do as a business is to make sure that not only are we helping in sort of these big markets, we're also trying to support globally new emerging markets and really try and help the operators, but also to protect the players as well.
Awesome. Adam, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
That was Adam Doyle here on the SiGMA podcast from LexisNexis with the RiskNarrative project. It's been Wesley Ellul with you, and we will see you next time for more info on the gaming industry here on SiGMA podcast.